one of the first things I did was I bought a ton of these like motivational posters and I put them all over the break room, but it does subconsciously help. I mean, they're reading that every day.
And they have to care about you. They have to want to go work for you, right?
Welcome back to another episode of Culture Camp. I have a very exciting one today. I have my sister and my brother-in-law, some of the greatest people I've ever met, but Andrew and Jessica Baker, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Means a lot, all the way from High River, Alberta, Canada. I know you drove down here just for this, so it means a lot.
Yep.
Yeah,
No,
we got out of the igloo and we drove down here.
Yep.
Yep.
No, I appreciate it.
With our dog sled and teams.
Yep. Yep. That's what all people think Canada is. And it doesn't even really snow very much. Well, actually, it snowed a little bit, but doesn't really snow that much as you'd think.
Not as much as Utah, but it gets pretty cold. It's
it gets cold for sure.
like minus 40.
That's why we have a do not travel to Canada for about 6 months out of the year. And it's a tight window to visit up there. But you are owners of Andrew and Jessica No Frills, one of the largest franchise grocery stores in all of Canada, right? Mm-hmm. And you've owned it since 2019. It's in High River. You're the #1 in all of Canada for customer satisfaction, which I'm very excited about because that's basically what my show is all about. And employees, you've got the fastest cashiers in Canada, top 5% produce sales growth of 2022. You're a husband and wife team, which I think is very unique, and you're one of the top financial reporting stores in all of Canada, which I think is huge. I remember when you guys bought this store, it was kind of in a little bit of shambles. It wasn't in the greatest situation with the old owner, and we don't gotta dive deep into all of that stuff, but we can talk about things you guys have changed. What I would like to get into is kind of your story of how you came about a grocery store. It's kind of random you don't, at least in the States, you don't hear of a lot of grocery store owners because it's more like, I don't even know if you can have a franchise grocery store here. Like I've
Googled it. Yeah. There's a couple.
Is there?
Yeah, there's not a lot though.
Not very common though. For sure.
No, for sure. Yeah, like but Andy, you've worked there with this company for how long?
I've been there for 10 years total, all the way from a franchise store, working my way up to the corporate side of it, and then back to owning my own store.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I remember the goal, I think 10 years ago when you started, was to own your own store, I think, one day.
Yeah, I wanted to get a feel for it at first. I'd worked for some other companies before as a store manager, and ethically, I didn't really like the way the businesses were run kind of higher up, and I wanted to make sure that the people that were on the team above me and the people I'd be working with, if I was an owner, the people that had those values that I believed in too, right? So I kind of decided to put some numbers on the board first, just starting out as a produce manager at a franchise store and getting a feel for the people higher up, and kind of went from there. And just, after a couple of years, decided to pull the trigger and let's go.
That's awesome. So you guys obviously met back in the United States.
Mm-hmm. We met working in a grocery store.
Yeah, you guys used to work at Walmart over there in Ogden or South Ogden, and the neighborhood market. And I remember Andy used to work at my mom and dad's Costa Vida, and remember that back then. So I guess start with Andy, because it's kind of been a lot of your journey, even while you guys were engaged to be married. You were working up in Canada and doing all that stuff. So what made you want to embark on like an entrepreneurial journey where you wanted to open up your own grocery store or get in the grocery game? Because it's a very unique. Is it all the money you saw being made when you worked at the previous grocery stores? Was it just something you thought of one day? How'd you get into it?
Yeah, I think it just kind of fell into place at the time. Worked for other companies before, and Jess and I, even when we were dating, we would say, if we owned our own business, this is what we would do, or these are the things we don't like about the place we work at and what we would do differently. And we were just always kind of critiquing things and coming up with solutions to be able to fix the problems. We'd be at a restaurant, we'd see dust somewhere. Oh, they got some dust over here. We would, make sure that didn't happen at our place, kind of thing. So, what was the question again? Sorry, my mind kind of went off on a tangent there.
No,
so how did we get started in groceries, right? Yeah. So, I did some retail stuff. I had managed a Foot Locker before. I worked restaurants before. I worked for Wendy's. in Ogden and learned a lot of systems there. And I was able to take those systems that I learned and a lot of what's applicable to me today that's really given me great success that I learned at Wendy's at fast food and applied it to Costa Vida when we worked there for with your parents. But then it just kind of fell in my lap. I was up in Canada and I was working at a Foot Locker, and an opportunity for a grocery store came up for a produce manager, and I decided to kind of switch and go to that. And later I got laid off working at that grocery store for not hitting the financial metrics that they wanted me to in a unionized environment with the store. And it just kind of, it's funny how doors open, right? When one door closes, another opened.
Right.
And there was a franchise store opening up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I went to go work for that guy. And so it was just kind of one door opened and, closed and the other one open, like I said.
Wow, that's cool. That was about what you started working for. Was that No Frills back in 2012?
2012 at Merz No Frills in Canada, yeah.
Nice, that's awesome. Jess, how, growing up, we grew up in a very extreme entrepreneurial house.
We did.
Was that always your dream growing up? I don't think I've ever asked this. Is that always your dream growing up? Like what? I know me and you are very alike. Very driven people. We will kick anybody's butt out there. But, obviously you married Andy, but like, were you always thinking about becoming this husband and wife power duo in the grocery game?
Yeah. I mean, I always knew that I was going to go into business for something. I did always want to be doing something with my husband because Mom and Dad were such an amazing example of, what a power couple could achieve in their lifetime. So I always wanted to kind of emulate them in whatever I ended up doing in life. So it was always in the back of my mind. And when Andy and I were dating, I just saw all the potential that he had. We started out very, very bottom of the barrel, but right. I knew together we could, achieve whatever we wanted to together.
For sure. And you guys have sacrificed a lot. How many times have you guys moved due to this journey? Because No Frills, to become an owner No Frills, it's a really long vetting process.
Yeah, you can't just pay money and all of a sudden take it over, right? You're an owner operator, so they want to make sure that you know what you're doing and make sure that's something you want to do. And obviously we want to make sure it's something we want to do,
Right.
And depending where you got a store, you might have a high volume store, a low volume store. It might be a market that doesn't have a high population or somewhere that does, right? And so you kind of need to find what you like and what you want, to know where's the best spot for you.
For sure. And it's kind of, open to them of saying, hey, we got these couple choices. Yeah. It's up to you. I mean, all over the country. I mean, you guys have been from Alberta how many times have you guys moved?
Well, we moved a lot, but we were open to going wherever we had to go, wherever the opportunity was. So we ended up moving from Calgary to a very random small town in BC. We lived there for a couple of years. Then we moved all the way to Winnipeg, which is like in the middle, like the Midwest, I guess, of Canada. We were there for a year, and then we ended up back in Alberta.
Right. Yeah. I remember when you moved to Winnipeg, I didn't ever come visit you because it's too cold.
It was that place. Like I thought it was cold in Canada before we moved there, but when you get minus 55, that's
a different game.
Joke.
That's when you just might as well you moved. So
yeah,
but it's cool to see because, a lot, I mean, it was tough. I mean, not really tough watching you guys because we were down here and you guys were up there, but it was a long journey. I mean, you had to go through a lot with whether you had, support from some people down here and not support from some people down here, from some of the family. And it's just cool to watch you just not care about any of that stuff and do what you knew the goal and the objective and the dream was. You didn't Mom and Dad always used to say, don't ever let any obstacle get in your way of your dream or don't let the obstacle become bigger than the dream. And I don't feel like you guys ever did that because we could have our opinion down here and then you get up there and you're like, guys, no, like this is going to be, and it was cool because, when Dad went up there for your guys' grand opening.
Yeah. I think he thought that what we were running was just like a rink-a-dink little,
a little mart
shop.
or something like that.
Gas station.
Yeah.
On the corner.
Right. And then he's texting us like, "Oh my gosh, did you see this?"
Yeah.
And I love that you guys put him to work and kicked his butt that day.
He was so funny.
Yeah,
well, he asked if he could help, and that wasn't a good question to ask.
Right. Yeah, no, he definitely is like, I don't think I'm going to go out there and ask for if they need any help anymore. But
somehow he snuck out and did cotton candy with Mom, though. He snuck out.
Sneaky guy. But I think it's really cool because I talk a lot about the show of just sticking to the game plan, sticking to how to make things work, how to make things operate. Yeah. And you guys you did. I mean, you working from basically up from every single rank, living like in I'm going to say tougher situations in little apartments and moving like 10 plus times in 10 years. I think, I don't know, maybe
a little more.
Yeah. And like every time, I think I visited a couple times, and so far I visited High River a couple times, and you guys stayed in the same spot. Well, you got a new house. So
yes, we did.
You've but kind of, worked your way up, but you two are probably the most conservative people I've ever met, for sure. Which is good. I mean, you're very, very disciplined in what you do, but I think it's been really cool, at least for me, to watch you guys just do it. And then to create one of the best stores in Canada. Like, it's one thing to buy a store or to own a business, but it's a whole other ballgame when you're like the number one store and you get taken on, on these trips around the world, which I think is really cool. And you get to walk in front of everybody with a little swag and get your award and do that. So when you guys first bought the store, I want to get into, really the meat of how you guys have been able to create one of the best customer satisfaction stores, coming from from at least my understanding, almost the worst customer satisfaction store. It wasn't like you guys were given a extremely high performing store and took it a little bit higher performing. It was a fairly low performing store, and you guys have completely turned it around and made it a really staple in the community, a staple with your employees, and a staple in the country of Canada as far as it is for groceries. So, I mean, kind of walk me through, I guess, wherever you want to go with that process of what it was buying the store and the process you implemented to smooth it all out.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, and kind of what, my tattoo on my chest says is whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes to win.
R.I.P. Rich Piana.
Yeah. Whether that meant even early on, like you said, moving all around and learning everything I need to learn, so I knew how to operate in no frills, and taking whatever opportunities were there for me and learn from the people that I needed to. And that's why we moved around a lot, and then finally getting the store there. And I think, lots of stuff maybe you can do consciously and some stuff subconsciously too, where just like we had done when we were younger, ripping apart in a positive way all the opportunities that needed to happen at the store. And I think, that was kind of the first thing, is defining kind of what we wanted our store to look like, and the vibe and the feel and how we wanted everything to run.
Even before we got there.
I mean, you guys were basically sculpting this dream store before you ever even had a store. I mean, because you had 10 years, kind of 10 years to really work on it.
And really since from the time we started on okay, we want to own a store. It was really from that point, it was about 4 years until we actually did own a store.
Right.
So for all of that time, we would always talk about oh, this is what we're going to do in our store. What can we do to make it better? How can we help our customers the most? That type of stuff. So we had a pretty good game plan going in before we even stepped foot in our store.
Which I think is awesome, because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. They don't get to work they usually, quite often, they don't get to work in the business they're about to own. Mm-hmm. I didn't necessarily work at an RV dealership before this whole process, and I wish that I had. I had no idea what I was doing. But it's a really cool process to be able to say, okay, I'm going to own one day, and this is what I'm going to do. And then to be able to go into the stores that you were, because I know you were training, I know you were, doing some things for corporate, and go into a variety of different stores, racking up those sky miles and seeing hey, okay, this store's doing that store's doing this, taking the best of all the worlds and legitimately implementing it. Because most people in you guys' position could have an ego and could say, well, I know, I'm not going to listen to these people. I know what I want, and I'm going to do my own thing, or it doesn't even matter to them, which is crazy. I'm sure you run into people who don't even care about culture. They don't care about Yeah, they're not. Maybe they strive to have good customer satisfaction, but it's not that important to them. Like,
I think a lot of the things kind of developed on their own, right? I think the main thing was we just wanted to make sure we had like a family kind of atmosphere and took care of our staff,
right,
and let them know that they were valued and we cared about them. And then it just kind of multiplied out.
They had been a little demoralized before we came into. You could see, like, even just when you were walking through the store, like a lot of people had their heads down, like they didn't want to talk to us, you know, like that type of stuff. So we really had to earn their trust that, you know, we did want them to excel. We wanted like their ideas and feedback and all of that stuff. And, you know, what we said was actually true and it would happen, you know, and we had to start out hardcore, just like appreciating everybody, even just, you know, something insignificant, like a $5 gift card to the local coffee shop. You know, if we saw somebody doing something awesome, we'd be like, oh, hey, go get a coffee on us. And I mean, just a $5 gift card. And they were like, holy cow, you know, like you're giving me $5, you know, so like
on the show, we talk a lot about like positive things that people do. What are some, I mean, you don't have to get into the details and if it's going to offend the guy, you know, I don't want to offend the guy, but what are some things that you can say that are examples of some things the previous owner did wrong that you've heard that he did? Is there anything that you can come to mind about that?
Not giving positive feedback.
Just a positive environment to begin with. One of the first things I did was I bought a ton of these like motivational posters and I put them all over the break room, all over the manager's office. It was a little out of control.
You know what's funny? Mom did that to our break room at the dealership.
Where do you think I got it from?
I'm like, bro, chill. Like there's a there's a thing that's like challenge period. And it's like a picture of a golf hole with like sand all around it and crazy. And it was like, Mom, relax.
Yes. But it does subconsciously help. I mean, they're reading that every day,
right?
Even if they're not thinking about it, but eventually it'll get in there. And then if you as the leader are instilling those values in them as well, then they're just engulfed in positivity and then it produces. So.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think, you know, given, what's the word I want to say? Assuming that your customers, you know, aren't bad people either, you know, giving them the benefit of the doubt, you know, on a lot of things too. You know, if they want to return something, I don't need a cashier being confrontational and saying, I don't think you bought that from here, or he doesn't have his receipt, or it was too long ago, or we don't believe him, or, you know, why do we need to be like that? It's a $2 pineapple, you know, just give it to him, give him another one, you know, just assuming positive intent when it came to the employees and the customers. And, you know, when you take care of your employees, they end up taking care of your customers for you. I wanted them to know, hey, they're like, the customers are like a guest in our home here, you know, and so let's just take care of them and do whatever it takes to make them come back and feel good. And there's so many things that the staff did really to help win over those customers for us in the community, right? Like those cashiers, I'll pick on in particular, you know, new people by names. How many times you go into a grocery store and the cashier knows your name as a customer because you shop there, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a week at least, right?
Right.
Hi, Sally, how you doing? You know, what's going on? How's your family? How's the kids? And it can be a quick conversation through the register. You know, it doesn't have to be like, how's the weather today? It can be something a little bit more than that. Or just, you know, our cashiers are great too, because in their downtime, when they don't have a customer, they're facing the products on the aisles and pulling stuff forward. They get familiar with where stuff is. A lot of times I've got them cross-trained in different departments in the store too, to pick up extra hours, or maybe they learned a different department first, like a grocery department, before they go work on the register. So then when the customers come up and say, I couldn't find something, or you guys used to have this, what happened? They're kind of my last line of defense. And those cashiers can say, oh, I know where that is. That's moved. It got down. It's over here now. Or, yeah, we haven't been able to get that for a month, but I was told we're getting some back in next week. So they're able to give that information to, you know, to the customer, right?
For sure. Jess, a little bit ago, you mentioned that when you bought the store, you had to gain their trust. That's huge, because a lot of, you know, if you're a new manager, even a new just employee, you know, I would hope to believe that you're trying to gain the trust with either your boss, or, you know, if you are the boss, you're trying to gain the trust of your new team, whoever you know, what are some things that you did to gain that trust?
I think there's lots of things, but I think it really boils down to appreciation. You know, if you're appreciating everything they're doing, not even just the big things, but the small things, you know, like we had so much on our plates when we first took over everything. I mean, we're dealing with lawyers and accountants and I don't even know because it was such a blur.
Plumbers and
yeah,
roofers
like
and
everything.
Really? Yeah.
So, you know, anytime that they brought a concern to us, like, you know, we made sure we were listening to them and we would act on it right away, you know, not just put them off and like, oh yeah, we'll get to it or whatever. You know, we made them a priority and we valued what they were bringing us, you know, like they had ideas on, you know, different types of things. Like, you know, even if a customer they knew was struggling, you know, we gave, was it Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner or something to a customer? I don't know, but that was from our employees. And they were like, look, these people are struggling. And we had kind of been talking about wanting to bless someone with Christmas dinner, but that was our employees. They were bold enough and trusted enough to come to us and, you know, give us
I had employees
feedback, so.
Using their own money to pay for people's groceries when they didn't have enough.
Really?
You know?
Yeah.
So we took care of our staff and they took care of our customers for us. Yeah.
That's awesome. If you're the best advice, what would be the best advice you could give for someone to telling them how to appreciate their, I mean, more than just asking them, how you doing?
Yeah.
But really showing them and like engaging with them appreciation.
Well, I mean, so our business is mainly run by like minimum wage employees. So, you know, when you're not making a lot of money, just to give someone, you know, a raise, like be generous with it.
Right.
And if they're, you know, doing extra stuff for you or whatever, like pay them accordingly, pay them what you think they're worth. And, yeah, I don't know. What else do you think?
What was the question exactly?
How to show the appreciation.
Appreciate
and I know that you do a lot because I've been in the store with you, quite a few times.
I think we're just you're hands-on. You know, we're in there. We're an operator too, right? So when you're in the war with them, you're going to build that trust with them already there, getting to know them, you know, letting them know you're not this kind of corporate person where we can't laugh with them and have fun. I mean, I take little things that I learned from every business I've been in that I thought were cool or neat or that I liked, you know, so I'll be, you know, going through the store sometimes and high-fiving staff as we're going down the aisles and they think that's funny, or we make a joke about, you know, a product that came in, you know, what it's called. It sounds kind of funny, or, you know, I make fun of the guys. Here's your feminine hygiene products, guys. They came in today and we're like, you know, so you got to laugh with them and let them know that you can let your hair down if I had hair.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, have a good time with them. So I think that's,
and we also try to do like, you know, appreciation type of events a couple times a year too. Like I don't know. We did like a little ice cream party, but we all just kind of gathered around and chatted and we had ice cream, but we make sure that we go, you know, as big as we can for our Christmas party. We make sure they get a good meal and we have awesome raffle prizes that they can do, like that type of stuff. There's a lot of owners at No Frills that don't do Christmas parties. So it's, you know, I mean, it sounds dumb, but they appreciate it. We have almost all of our staff that are going to our Christmas party. That's rare.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Usually it's a very small percentage and they just don't really care. And, you know, I hear that a lot, you know, in my world. Oh, why would you do a Christmas party? Why would you do this? Why would you do that? I'm like, I don't know. Why wouldn't you? Well, it's an expense. Well, yeah, but like you're investing into the team, and
I'd like to hit on that too. Jess kind of touched on it. I got a lot of flack when I took over. So we're a franchise. So we do share the profits with a corporate
entity. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, they question me, why are you paying people more money? Well, because I don't look at them like a liability on my P&L statement, right? I look at them like an asset. So why wouldn't I reinvest in them? And I know if I give that guy $1 or $2 more, or that gal, you know, they're going to generate much more productivity back to me the other way. Right. And not just productivity wise, but maybe customer relations wise or whatever their strength may be. So it's worth it for me to do that. Maybe I don't need as many people on the floor to be stocking the shelves because I can get it out of that person now. Right.
Right.
And so to your point.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really hard for for some people, it's really hard for them to get a lot out of people. You know, like I hear complaints all the time, like, oh, low production, low this, low that. Well, how are you dealing with them? What are you paying them? And a lot of it comes down to pay. And, you know, obviously there's budgets and you can't pay them a limited amount of money, but giving them a good, decent wage.
And they have to care about you. They have to want to go work for you, right? That's the biggest thing that you kind of been chatting about here, but they have to want to do it.
For sure.
And you got to hire the right people to begin with, right? You know, when you're interviewing people, you got to put people in the right position. Why would I put somebody that's really quiet and meek and put them on a register, right? I want somebody who's a little more sociable and, you know, engaging, you know, and find people the right spots for them, you know, so that they'll do a good job and get that return.
And don't be afraid to like move people around, you know, I mean, just because they're, you know, not great at being a cashier, like they could be awesome at stocking the meat shelf, you know, like you've got to move them around to see what suits them.
Sometimes people don't know when it's their first job, right? They don't know, or you hire them thinking they'll be good at something, and it turns out maybe that's not their best strength. You know, maybe something else is that you can kind of see inside of them, you know?
Right.
And maybe there's an opportunity where, you know, hey, in 6 months from now, this person can develop and take on a leadership position. So I'm going to put them in this role over here, you know, learning dairy and freezers so that they can be in charge of a couple of the staff and work their way up. And maybe one day when I need a meat manager, they can develop into that person, right? So that's another thing, is them seeing development among their peers and them moving up to other roles within the store, to know there's growth and opportunity there for them, for those that are interested, right? Not everybody is, but and taking care of them too. You know, some people, you know, they start out and they're part-time and stuff happens, and one day, you know, they need more hours because they're pregnant now, right? Or they've lost an income for one reason or another, and they need more hours. So being able to cross-train them on different things within the store, the business, and move them around gives them that opportunity to get more hours, and they know then that you care about them because you're trying to help them out when they're in a tough spot, you know?
Right.
We have one particular manager right now, you know, that ran into a lot of debt and a lot of struggles. And it came to us, you know, over the last couple of years, what should I do here and there? And he decided to not really listen and go his own path and just set him further into debt. Got to a point, you know, where he didn't know what to do. And so, you know, now we're able to kind of help him out. So I sat him
down and helped him budget.
Yeah.
We help him with budgeting and getting some other hours in the store, doing other things too, so he can pick up extra
But
money.
I mean, it's stuff like that. I mean, that's going to change that guy's life, you know? I mean,
well, it shows that you care.
Yeah. I mean, we took, you know, maybe a half an hour to go through everything and figure out a game plan. And I mean, who that you've ever worked for would sit down with you and
nobody
do something that personal with you? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and you know, like I said, it shows that you care. And most people don't really get that, like you said, from their boss. You know, their boss, let alone the owner. I mean, yeah, you guys are an owner operator, but at the end of the day, you're the owner. Most owners would be like, that's not my problem. That's your problem. Yeah. But showing that you care and showing that you have their back no matter what, and that they're actually like a true family means more than anything to them, because they don't feel like a number. The worst thing in a business is if you just, I'm just a number and nobody cares. Well, why would I perform that much more over and above what I'm supposed to perform for somebody that I don't know that doesn't care? Like, you know, I had coaches back in the day that I know that didn't care about me. So I wasn't really motivated to bust my ass and try to do things for them. I was trying to pat my own stats and do my own thing. But if you have a coach that cares, you're probably more likely to pass the ball an extra time for the open shot or do something, or the team, because you care more about the team and the coach than you do yourself, which can go hand in hand in business as well.
And I think you got to, you know, set the expectations, right, and give people goals to go after, right? When it comes down to, you spoke in the beginning about, we have the fastest cashiers in all of Canada, which is kind of crazy, right? But, and I'll give, you know, the credit to the front end manager at our store there, right, for doing that. But, you know, the expectation to be set is, hey, this is kind of the minimum standard for measuring your times of how fast you scan items and get people through. And, you know, here's the minimum, and then here's the target that you need to get to, and here's the average of what everybody else is doing, you know. And when everybody's pulling their weight, everybody on the team's happy. It's when, and not just on the cashiers, it could be anything, right? When somebody's not given 100% of what their best is, and other people have to pick up the slack, that pulls your culture down in the store, right? Or in that department, because now other people are having to work that much harder. And if there's no good reason why that's happening, you know, then, you get that negative kind of vibe going on, right? But also just when staff know that they've got a target to go after, these are expectations, this is how I'm impacting the store and impacting Jessica and Andrew personally too. They take some satisfaction in that. And I'm not going to say every single person, feels that way, but due to the surveys that we do and the feedback anonymous surveys, right, I would say 97% of our staff feel that way.
That's awesome. That's huge. How have you been able to, I guess, get people or get your staff to buy into your vision? Because I'm sure when you took over, there was a little bit of people don't like change. People are skeptical. New owners coming in. You're not even from the town. And High River's a good old boy, tight-knit town, it seems like. And it's a very country.
It's a small town.
Sure. But it's a cool place.
Yeah, population's about 10,000 people. It's more of an older community. That's our demographic. 60% of the town is 50 and older. And it was interesting because, I was very conscious of that before we went in there. I didn't want to go in and feel like I was firing a machine gun at everybody and, everybody, being scared of what's going to go on. Am I going to get fired? Do they not like me kind of thing? But everybody kind of wanted a leader and somebody to step up and what do you want us to do here? And what is you want us to do that? And I think just, us being personal with the staff, everybody just kind of wanted to come around. So that's kind of how they bought into the vision. I think they just bought into us first. And
right.
Then,
well, and we empowered them to be able to take 100%. Ownership of their position and really help the customer with whatever they were doing.
Little things like, a customer coming in and this watermelon's bad. And then you got to go through a line or through a customer service thing. If you have that in your store, we don't, it's just the cashiers there, it's a basic bare bones kind of thing. We don't have a little customer service desk, but then you got to wait through a line there, wait for a manager to come, and it can take a long time. Even a few minutes seems like a long time to a customer trying to return something, right? So we just empowered the staff just in that scenario. Hey, you take it on yourself. Hey, tell them you talk to me. My name's Cruz in the produce department, and tell them that I owe you a watermelon or a pineapple, and that's why you got this here, and it's free today. And then we had already trained the cashiers. Don't even question anything. Take their word for it. If you don't think it's true, take it up with me later and we'll discuss it. And, we'll see if there's a problem, but there was never a problem. It was always, yep, I told them they could have that. No problem.
Right.
So,
well,
they bought
not getting
pretty good.
hung up on those little things. Like you said, early in this podcast is huge because like when we took over, most of the stores that we take over when we go in, there's a lot of the previous owners are stepping over dollars to pick up a few pennies. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why are you caught up in the weeds doing stuff that really doesn't matter? No. And why are you getting mad at people for things that really don't matter? Like at the end of the day, you can say like, yes, every penny matters, but why are we like so focused on the micro instead of so focused on, the macro of things where we're over here of, can we save $1 to do this? When it's like, hey, we should be in the weeds, you're in the weeds. We should be over here doing that. And it's crazy. And it comes down to like what I think a lot of different personalities, but it's belief systems. Like you guys, I'm guessing, just from knowing you really well in this conversation, is you believe more in empowerment and taking your team, and like the store rises and falls on the team, and the team performs. The team's obviously, I mean, if you didn't have a team, you just have a big building with a lot of stuff in it and basically your own personal pantry.
Yeah, the big vision is driving sales, right? And everything else is leveraged off of that, right?
Right.
So that's your big picture. I understand, when you have no sales, maybe that's why you're nickel and diamond and watch it and every little thing that goes there, right? But if you can drive those sales, and I'll speak to a personal thing. When we used to work at the Costa Vida with your dad, it was really sad. We had some really good staff that I had pulled from Wendy's when I had worked there. All the fastest people that I could find there that I worked with that were machines, brought them over there, and they were working our drive-through line, takeout line, sorry, right? And Jess was in charge of kind of marketing that business and driving the sales there. And for a while there, the sales, slumped off.
Right.
And me coming from my management background at that point in time, when I was probably 26, 27 years old, I thought, we got to control this number line here, right? We got to get rid of the staff, sadly, it's not hitting the right percentages, and your dad came in and said, or you could just drive the sales over there.
Right.
Oh, I never thought of that before. Right.
Right.
And so that kind of thinking, as well as different people that I've met through the different jobs and careers I've had, helped us with the grocery store there, right? So your bigger picture thinking, like you're saying, right? Drive your sales, and the other stuff can take care of itself, right? Then you have more money to be able to pay for staff incentives and be able to, like the gift cards, the $5 gift cards. You know, you're not micromanaging every little nickel and dime. Then if you focus on driving your sales,
right?
How can you do that?
Right. Yeah. I always tell people, like, I got accountants and got office managers and office staff and CFOs that handle that side of the things. You know, I'm here to drive the business and drive the sales and worry about that. I know I'm not worried about, oh my gosh, I gave you $100 budget for lunch. You spent $115 and I'm taking $15 out of your paycheck. Like that's ridiculous, guys. Like at the end of the day, just keep rolling on. And I owe it to you guys to create a business that doesn't care about $15. Like,
yes,
that's my job. That's not your job. Like, you know, if you're going $200 over every, week, we're like, hey, why you buying your family meals? Like, what's going on? Do we have staff that I didn't know about? Like, what's going on? And you have that conversation, but it's more of a collaborative team conversation of how can we do better? I mean, we got to do better. We're blowing our budget on this. You know, what's going on, and having that conversation instead of just screaming at them, yelling at them, where they're like, oh, okay. Like, you want to get on the, to their level if you per se, and then just talk to them like a normal person and figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And you know what, in this day and age too, at least where we are, right? Maybe it's different where you are in your business, but staff have different things going on in life, right? There's lots of people out there, with depression or screwed up family lives or different learning disabilities, right? And so sometimes, as I've learned, it's good to talk to that person and just ask them, is there something I don't know about that I need to know why you're not performing here? This is what I see. And I'll tell you, almost every single time somebody's got a legitimate thing going on where, wow, I didn't know that, you had this medical condition,
right?
And that's why you're the way you are. I'll definitely be more sensitive to that. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Right? Which is so important, because if you have a really high performing person, all of a sudden something drops off, like it's a defining, like, hey, like last week was great. This week, what the heck is going on? If you're any decent human being, I feel like you'd talk to him and be like, hey, what's going on?
Doesn't always happen like that, though, in every business,
crazy.
Right? It's, hey, cut their hours and let them quit and go find another job, right? Or just fire them and pay them out.
Right.
Get rid of them. Get rid of the dead weight, And, and we don't really look at it that way. I want to make sure before I get rid of somebody, I've done everything I possibly can to train them and develop them and give them all the tools. I've had a conversation to make sure there's nothing going on. I've moved them around everywhere I can that's made sense, for where their skill set is. And then if it still doesn't work, okay, that's a different story. And then even when that does happen, I do sit them down and I explain to them why, so they don't wonder, well, why did this guy let me go? That was kind of a jerky thing for that owner to do.
Right.
Nope, I get it. I see what they're talking about. Yeah, I haven't been performing and he's done everything he can for me, right? So
right. No, and I think that's huge to be just upfront and honest with them.
Yeah, and it comes back to kind of the personal touch too, is, you've got to communicate with your staff and know what is going on in their lives. You've got to break that barrier between like boss and employee, and you've got to be like teammates.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you can't be like everybody's best friend, but there has to be like a level of respect there. That's like, hey, we're going to talk to each other like people. If there's anything like in our business, the worst thing that people can do to me is lie to me. I just want the open, honest communication. If you like something, great. If you don't like it, tell me. Like, I don't know what I don't know. So when I call you, like, I hate it because there is that barrier between like me being the CEO and
they're afraid of you, right?
Yeah, which
naturally
drives me nuts, because I'm like, I can't tell you how many times I go to a dealership and I'm like, how's everything? Great. Okay, cool. Hey, we'll report back. Hey, everything's great, man. We're good. And then, Matt will go there, our COO, and he'll be like, hey, man, like they got this issue or there's that issue, or hey, they really need a new truck. And I'm like, I asked him how the truck was, or I asked him how this was. But sometimes it goes like way extreme. They're like, hey, we needed this and we need that. And I'm like, okay, you guys need to chill. But it's hard. So like we get anonymous surveys and different things, and I get great feedback. We're honest feedback and share it with the whole team. Every meeting I have, I do a survey. How was the meeting? Was it productive? Was it this? Was it that? Like, I want to know what they're thinking. And it takes a real, person to not get offended by that. I'm asking to get ripped apart. And sometimes like I get ripped apart. Hey, you don't care. You don't do this. You don't do that. Like, it seems like you this or that. And I'm like, wow. And so I try to nail down maybe who that is and talk to him and say, hey, sounds like, you got an issue. And usually it's a misunderstanding that they think I'm doing something one 100%. Way and they're doing something the other. And we're not really aligned. We always talk about getting in alignment.
And that comes back to like knowing the personalities. I mean, I know you know the DISC system and you've done more in-depth stuff with that, but we even took like all of our managers and kind of our supervisors or kind of the employees that work a lot of hours. And I took them through a DISC training myself so that, you know, like I had them kind of fill out the little quiz or whatever. And I put all of our personalities together on the little chart or whatever. Right. So it was very interesting. We had interesting personalities for leadership, but you know, Andy and I are high D. So that's a whole set of issues that there.
Right. which a D, if you don't know, it's a dominant director pretty much. Like you're
yeah. And
intense.
Our managers were mostly like S and C, which is more like,
and S is more supportive. They're soft. C is very calculated, cautious.
Yes.
Cautious thinkers is what they call them a lot.
So those personalities clash when, when things are going wrong. So it was important for them to know how we operate. And like, you know, if Andy, he's changed his name. It's Andy. I don't know.
I know him as Andy. So sorry.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. I know. So when
I didn't know you were Andy.
Like Robert Bob.
When I went to your store, I'm like, hey, Andy. They're like, who's Andy? I'm
like,
it's more refined and sophisticated now with Andrew.
Yeah.
But so if Andy is like giving you like a directive, you know, it's not because he hates you. It's because he wants that thing done, you know?
Right.
So it was important for us all to kind of know what each other's personalities were, and, you know, we can gel the team a lot better. And then for those managers and those like key people to be able to, you know, spot whatever personality, you know, this new employee is or whatever, then you can figure out how your team kind of functions.
Right.
So,
and when I hire people too, I also, as part of the orientation that I normally do with almost all the staff, is I kind of go over how it is to work with me, just so they know. Because I know sometimes I get into my little busy bee mode where I, you know, my eyes are forward and heads down and I'm working. And maybe it's only one word answers if you ask me something. Yes, no, yep, okay, you know. And so in my past, I know that some people then think, oh, maybe that guy's mad at me or doesn't like me, or I did something wrong because he was short with me today, or he didn't say hi. Sometimes I'm in my little zone just walking, you know, a mile a minute to the back room thinking about how am I going to fix this? What am I going to do? And I didn't see somebody out of the corner of my eye. I didn't say hi to him in the morning, right? So I'm really conscious of that. And I'm aware through going through that DISC training years ago with whatever business we were in with your parents at the time, you know, what some of the positive and the negative aspects of that personality is, right? So I know to let the staff know, hey, you know, if I don't say hi to you, this is why, you know, it's just, you know, don't think anything of it. You know, I'll be straight up front with you. Here's where I'm weak at, you know, and surround yourself with people better than yourself. Same thing we did at the restaurants, right? So when we worked there at Costa Vida, maybe I'm into the production side and I need to be a little nicer with the customers. So surround myself with people that are good with the customers, right? But also acknowledge myself that I need to get better at something, right? Too, for sure. Right. And so it's the same thing at the store there.
That's awesome. Yeah, we do very, very similar things. I have it plotted on the DISC diagram of our team's personality, and I have it broken down to in a favorable situation how we act and an unfavorable situation how we react.
Yeah, super important.
We laugh about it all the time because I'm like, guys, we're doing what we're not supposed to be, and we're like, this person, oh, kill him, do this, freaking like, burn it down. And then we have a couple people like, guys, let's not do that. Let's not overreact. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, it's funny. We have a good yin and yang sometime with our team, and they're like, Jason, chill. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're burning the place down.
Yeah. But if you didn't know about the personalities, then you really would burn the place down.
Well, it drives me even more nuts because they call it out and I'm like, shut up. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Stop talking to me about that. I know that more than you. Well, you're doing it to yourself. But it's a good time, and we kind of use it lightly, but also serious at the same time. And we break situations down a diagram of a favorable, unfavorable, how we're going to react, what's going to happen. And we have a very diverse person. We have a very diverse personality management team. I think everybody's fitting their role really, really well. But you're right. Like, if you don't know why people do what they do, like we were talking earlier today at lunch, that I've really dove deep, maybe a little too deep, into why people do what they do. And, you know, if I didn't have a company to run, I think I'd go back and get a PhD in psychology and different things. I think it's so interesting and fascinating of why people do what they do, and they're so different. I mean, we grew up, you and I grew up in same house. We went to the same dinners. We went to the same places, same conferences, same things, and all four of us are so different. And it's just fascinating. Like I'm just so fascinated because
we're the same. I love that psychology stuff.
Yeah, and same, you know, why people are what they are, or, you know, customers, or a thing of like, hey, like they're freaking out and losing their mind about something. Yeah. But in my eyes, like I always break it down more of, okay, there's got to be an underlying situation. Like, are they really mad that their you know, trailer's leaking or this or that? Like, what's going on? You break it down to maybe it was broken down communication, or they maybe are really upset because it, you know, got on their wife something, or maybe it dripped on their head, or maybe like, let's figure out like more of a root cause of this kind of what most would see a really minor issue that's all of a sudden exploded.
Yeah, and sometimes, at least for us, it's in the moment you've got to deal with a situation, right? You know,
right.
It's you know, you only got a couple minutes to win that customer over before they leave your store and don't buy bread from you anymore. Right. You know, and I remember your dad one time, again, when we were working at the restaurant, you know, we were talking about some crazy situation with a customer, you know, that was flying off the handle, and he said, well, do you feel better about that? You got to tell that customer off and tell them what you thought about them and why they were wrong, because they were wrong. Oh, yeah, I feel much better now. Okay, well, at the end of the day, you lost because you didn't get their money, right? So I remembered that for years to come. Now we own our own grocery store, right? And is it worth it for me to have this argument with a customer and tell them that they're wrong? And then guess what? I lose. I don't get their money. And so you can selfishly think of it that way. But, you know, at the same time, I don't want to be that guy that's a jerk out there. You know what I mean? That, you know, and I guess there's a time and place for everything too, because, you know, I'm also going to stick up for my staff if somebody's, you know, violently being aggressive or something towards somebody, right? I'm going to have their back. And so the staff appreciate that too, that I've done that for them. You know, there's sadly, you know, some of our cashiers that are under, you know, minors under the age of 18 in Canada is the age to drink, right? So I'll consider them a minor up there. You know, a gentleman hit on them when their wives aren't around, you know, and they're with their kids, their little kids, and they don't know what's going on. And, you know, when I hear about it, it's been going on for a year, and I'm in an uncomfortable situation with this customer that keeps coming into my store. You know, I'm conscious I don't want to lose their money in the back of my head, but I'm also going to stick up for my cashier here, right? So you need to be willing to do that too. I think there's a balance there.
No, for sure. And, you know, I get into some crazy stories about that we won't talk about on this because it's a little bit of intense with some customers, and had to, you know, tell them. But, you know, usually, you know, with us, you know, we just, like, people start screaming at me, like, look, dude, I don't know why you're talking to me like this. It's not making me want to go the extra mile and bend my back to help you. So if you can talk to me like a human being and talk to me like a person, we can have a conversation. But if you're just screaming at me, I'm going to move on to the other next situation. Yeah. And usually if you just set the expectation, demand the respect, that's usually, they can't really argue with that. And if they do, then there's a really cool button that's red on a phone, and you just hit it, and then you don't have to worry about it again. And, you know, they can do this and do that, but, you know, I'll text them back and be like, at the moment, it's almost like, you know, talking to a kid. The moment that you stop yelling at me is the moment I'm picking up my phone. So, and I've had people like literally call me and apologize. Their wives will call me like, hey, my husband, I'm so sorry that he called me. Or the opposite. Hey, my wife shouldn't have said that to you or this. I'm like, hey man, it's okay. Like we're all frustrated, but at the end of the day, like I need to create a win-win situation where we win, you win, and I want a happy customer and I want you camping. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't do me any good to have your trailer in service or have your trailer out of being able to camp or doing this or keep those memories from your family. That's not my goal. So if you think I'm in the business of doing that, you're wrong. Like I don't even know where that would come from. So I think if you set those expectations with customers, because with any business, things go wrong. With especially working with a lot of food goes bad. You know, you have bad this, bad that, and you can't really like audit every single thing that goes out. And like if you get a big pallet of apples, you can't go look at every single apple and look at them. And some people might grab an apple and put it in their bag and go home, and they get home and they go to open it or bite it, and there's a big black bruise, you know, something on the like thing. Yeah. Now most people probably wouldn't take it back, but I'm sure that there's a lot of people that's like, hey, I bought an apple, and then you're like over here arguing with them over a freaking 10-cent apple, and you're like,
well, it's kind of funny too, because I run like our social media stuff, but people will message me on Facebook and they'll be like, hey, I bought this, you know, I threw away the receipt, like blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, just bring it in. We'll switch it out for you. No problem.
This doesn't look like a no-frills apple.
And they're like, are you sure? No, but they're almost scared to do it because not very many businesses will help them, you know?
Right.
So I don't know. It's been interesting. Just like, no, it's okay. Like literally just bring it back and we'll swap it out or give you your money.
I mean, we want you to be, you know, we're in the business of obviously feeding you. So, you know, we want you to be able to.
Yeah. Like we don't want people to have rotten food, and we don't want to be the store known for like, oh, you get rotten food.
And a lot of times you can call that vendor and say, hey, you've given us a rotten thing. Like a lot of customers don't realize that. It's like, it kind of affects the business, but at the end of the day, you're going to turn right around and either write it off or call the vendor and say, dude, you've shipped me like 5 crates of apples that are just, most of them are rotten. What's going on? Like I need a discount
the hit for it too, right? I mean, there's an allowance there for stuff too, where we know stuff's going to happen, and just other things popping into my mind as we're talking here too. Just, you know, trying to get the buy-in from everybody too was, you know, donating back to the community and giving back where you can, right? We didn't really touch on that, but, you know, the one thing we happen to do, Jessica got a message on Facebook, hey, can we donate to the local soccer club in town, right? And I said, okay, well, how much is that? And what do they plan to do with the money, right? And it really felt like it was just diluted and wasn't really going to do anything. And I said, you know what? I played soccer at a high level when I was younger. Do they need any coaches? You know, so then we just sponsored a team ourselves, and we gave back our time to coach that team, right? Jess didn't know much about soccer, but she learned as we were there. And, you know, that was pretty interesting. It was an under 10 traveling team, because I said, give me the oldest kids you can, because I want somebody under 11. Sorry, that I want people that are wanting to be there and not just chasing butterflies off to the side kind of thing. And this was kind of the age where that kind of that turn happens for them, from what I'm told. So yeah, we have under 11 traveling team. And so it was interesting to take that same kind of culture we had built in the store and then build it there. And I'm a very competitive person. So, you know, there was lots of times where Jess would say, you need to calm it down. These kids are 10 years old.
They're 10.
And I'm like,
I remember when you coached at LCA, the little junior high or the little 6th grade soccer team was, you know, leading. I'm not going to say that you might have given them energy drinks for the game, but, you know, we wired them up and they were zipping around. But you are probably the most competitive.
It was funny. I mean,
I
it was interesting, and to hear feedback from the parents just in that particular instance with that team too. You know, I remember it was a huddle before the game. It was like our second game or something. I had some talent with some players out there. And I remember saying to the striker, how many goals are you scoring today? And he said, I don't know. The game hasn't started. And I said, I don't think you get it, man. You need to visualize you putting that ball in the back of that net. How many goals are you getting today? I don't know. It hasn't started. And I said, 3 goals. That's what I need from you today. We need to win this game. You have to score 3 times. That's what I expect out of you. How many goals are you scoring? 3 goals. And then I turned to the defenseman. How many goals are you guys letting get past you? None. That's right. You know, and just hype them up and get that visualization of stuff going. I remember going to a tournament and messaging all the players in this app we had before the game. I said, you guys have an hour to drive to this tournament today. I need you to visualize everything in your position that you're going to do to make this win for us today. You need to give it everything you have, and that's what you need to think about the entire hour to that tournament, right? And the parents, 3 parents came up to me, wow, I've never had, you know, this kind of a level of thinking for my kids. We don't come from, you know, where it's talked about winning or, you know, trying to do your best. It's just about kind of having fun. And now this is kind of the switch that I'm seeing in my kid, and he's really going after stuff and practicing after school and trying to better himself. And so we appreciate that. Right. And so it's similar in the grocery store, similar kind of atmosphere where, you know, they're going on YouTube in the produce department. Okay. What's a good quality fruit here, or how do you cook with this? Because if somebody asked me, right, and trying to better themselves, right, and just take us to the next level, right.
That's so cool. I think that's so important. I mean, that's people get confused, and it's got confused in our company as well, as a good culture versus a winning culture, and how they can be as one. Yeah. Right. You know, a culture does not mean everybody gets a trophy. We love everybody. No one can ever get fired. We're going to keep people.
It feeds off each other, right? Yeah. When you're winning, we're winners, and we got the best of this or the best of that, and you're proud of where you work, right? You're proud to say you do what you do, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's okay to expect excellence too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what's the point in doing anything unless you're going to be excellent at it?
And then
right.
That doesn't mean perfect. It means you gave your best effort and try. So.
Right. And then reviewing with them afterwards what they did, their impact on how it helped you, right?
Right.
And I'll pick on my son Wesley right now. He's 20 years old. He came up to Canada when he was 18 after graduating high school in California with his mom, you know, and now he's my grocery manager, right? And just showing him specifically, here's all the things you do on a daily basis to control the inventory and get credits back on stuff. And here's the net impact it had on our financial situation because of that, right?
Right.
And then for him to see that on paper was kind of, you know, I saw his eyes go up, right? Like, wow, you know, I did that. Okay, that's great. I impacted that. Same with the staff that just work in the meat department. We have a program now called Flash Foods, right? Where, you know, discounted food that, you know, is still salvageable for somebody to eat that maybe isn't 100% the best quality. We put it on this app and people shop on this app and pick up these not as good groceries anymore, maybe an apple with a bruise on it kind of thing, right? Or meat that's going to expire in a couple days and we put it in there. So here's what your impact had by you listing that stuff on this app so customers could buy it at a discounted price instead of it going into a landfill or something, right? And so somebody that was less fortunate perhaps too could buy that and now eat it for their family with the cost of goods of inflation the way it is now. I don't know what it's here in the US. I know inflation's gone up a lot and it's, you know, probably in the produce department in Canada at about 20% inflation, right?
Wow.
The grocery store overall is maybe 8% inflation, but it's really hit in produce, right? So
right.
That's all I have to say about
that. No, that's huge, man, because people, I think people want to make an impact.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's volunteering at a local shelter, doing something with animals, whatever. I mean, I'm not thinking about it. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that's like, I don't want to help anybody make an impact in anybody's life or do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you show them the impact they're making and you're honest with them and you're showing them, you know, sometimes it's the bottom line saying, hey, y'all think we're making this much money, but really making this much money. but you are responsible for this, whether it's a positive or negative is like, whoa, like that's impacting their life to even keep doing the good things that they're doing, or, hey, I got to get way better.
Yeah. Well, even at our Christmas party last year, it was the first time we kind of told them like kind of our year at a glance or whatever, like all of our, not like specific financials, but just kind of where we landed a little bit. And it was surprising at how excited they were that, you know, we were doing good and we were accomplishing some of the things that we had set out. And they were super excited that we had all these gains. I mean, they were like whooping and hollering, like all about it. So, I mean, for a minimum wage employee to get that buy-in to want your store to achieve and all that kind of stuff, like, you know, it matters. Like they like to see that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I remember going to a dealership years ago, and one that we owned, and it was the first one that we owned, and it wasn't in the greatest shape. And I remember interviewing a couple people, asking like, how much money do you think we're making? Like for every dollar we take in of sales, so say we sell something for $50,000, how much money do you think we're keeping in our pockets? And we break it down per dollar, right? And they're like, oh, you know, 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents, 10 cents, 20. I mean, I'm like, not even an entire penny. So for every dollar we sell, we're not even keeping in our bank account an entire penny. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, let's get our freaking shit together and let's get this going. And I think that was like an aha moment for a lot of people, because when we bought the dealership, it was in pretty rough shape. And they thought that the previous owners were just riding off the sunset and getting all this money and greatest thing in the world and all this and that. And they're like, like we're not even keeping pennies. At that point, they were giving pennies away for every dollar that they made. And it was a hobby. So it's a very expensive hobby that no one wants this to be a hobby. And now that we're doing over 100 million, people are like, oh, you're doing this, and you know, you got to be doing. And then I'm like, have you just realized the percentage that actually goes into our pocket is negligible compared to what you think $100 million means, which is for most companies. I mean, most companies run on a razor thin margin. Yeah, like I guess that thin margin might be a large amount of money, but one swing or another, like in our industry, I mean, some areas in the U.S. are down 50 to 60%. No one budgets for a 50% reduction in sales. No. Nobody. And so you know, which I'm kind of, we're still looking pretty good, and I'm excited because we're going to start buying some stores, hopefully, but you know, we're going to be able to buy them for discounts because people are going to be way over leveraged. But it's just, it's crazy what happens when you're upfront and I guess really honest and just say like, look guys, like we're on the same team, obviously, like, and that's one of our values as a company is financial success, because it's your job to do your job, to help your brother or sister out on your right and your left keep their job. Like, you know, if you're giving away money or doing stupid stuff or not doing what you're supposed to be doing or whatever, and it's costing us money, then you're potentially hurting your people in your dealership. Do you want to do that? No. Okay. So financial success is a value because we value you as a family. Like we have 179 employees or 178 employees. And I'm like, okay, we got 178 employees. That means maybe at least a +1, maybe. So there's maybe close to 400 people out there, maybe more. 700 people that rely on a Haugen RV income means a lot. So like we keep that really out there because it's my job as CEO to keep the lights on, to make sure they're profitable, to be able, and I'm upfront with them, guys. Hey, look, this is what we're doing. The general managers all know exactly what the bottom line is, exactly what the number is, and they watch it every time. So now they're like, okay, next time we give away a hitch or next time we give away some of this or some of that, they're like, it affected their paycheck or affected the bottom line. So I think, but before us, they never had that up front. They just,
not a lot of companies are willing to put their numbers. And I mean, you don't even have to be like specific, but you know, like we usually do like a percentage of like change, whatever it is. But, you know, it gives them a goal to shoot towards. And I don't know how you can get through any part of your life without goals. So,
no, I mean, I give them the exact balance sheet financials. Like you got to study that thing. You got to know everything about it and where every dollar for your dealership's going. Cause in the RV industry, you have basically 5 companies under one company. So you have your new department, your sales department, your finance department, parts department, and service department all operate as their own individual business. Technically, they all have their own financial. They'll pay their own rents to the dealership, and the dealership has to make money. It's pretty intense. And so, you know, we make sure that they all know that. So, but that's a new thing for most of them. They're like, why would I need to know this? Or why would I need to know that? It's because we're on the same team. We're all here together. Like we're all going to be okay. So, but one thing I want to ask you guys, this has been awesome. And I really, really appreciate you guys, doing this, and maybe not driving away from Canada for me, but drove across town from mom and dad's house to do this. But I want to ask you individually, what success means to you. So you can start, or whoever can start first. Ladies first. Jess, what does success mean to you?
I think, well, to repeat what most people have said on your podcast, but I think it's freedom. To be able to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with the people you want to do. And it doesn't necessarily mean a financial number. It could mean time. I don't know. I just think that's like our end goal is to be able to do what we want to do when we want to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big question that you could spend a lot of time on answering. I think, success for me keeps changing, right? Because you keep setting goals and you're like, cool, I got success. Okay, set the next goal. Okay, I got success, right? So and then you can look back and reflect on it and say, I didn't think I had a lot of success, but I guess I did. You know, we hit this, and this along the way, right? So it's been nice. I've said to Jess numbers of times, you know, hey, that's nice that we have the ability and freedom for you to be able to take this time off working at the store right now to go do that, right? So I'll say that's success there, right, for us. But for me right now, where we are in life, I would say success is kind of measured financially, right? When the house is paid off here, hopefully in a few years' time, and, you know, we have X amount of money in the bank, creates the freedom then for us to be able to do other things in our life and create other avenues of income. That'll be kind of the ultimate kind of level of success. Your parents and, you know, some other people we've had on this podcast are at a different level, right? So they might not think, you know, the achievements we've made are quite as successful as them, right? And I might agree with that too, right? But so everybody's definition is different, and I think it changes as you go through life. But
I couldn't agree more. I don't think I've ever even looked at success defined anything monetarily, because I know very quote unquote successful people that have a lot of money, and I'm like, dude, I don't think you're successful at all. But I've met, I was just Mikkel and I fed 1,200 people. When it was the last on a Saturday the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and we were talking to the guy that runs the network that we were be able to provide the food for, and he was like, look, I've fed over, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've done this, and I've fed estimated over 1 million people and under this, and I'm like looking at him, he's like kept joking, he's like, but I'm broke, like I have no money, I can't do this. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, we run in 2 weeks. I have enough money to run this for 2 weeks. And I'm like, really? He's like, but the amazing thing is it's always 2 weeks. For 20 years, it's always been 2 weeks. It's people just keep providing. He's saying God is providing, and it's amazing. And I'm looking at this dude, and I'm like, you are the most successful person I have ever met in my entire life, because impact, right? Like, I got a chance to talk with Tim Tebow, and he was talking about impact, and I'm like, dude, it's like that is a lot of success, is impacting people. You can say, oh, I'm successful because I make a certain amount of money, but impacting, whether you're impacting, my sister's life and being able to give her freedom, or vice versa, like that's an impact, and that's huge. So I appreciate you both being on the show. It really means a lot. I've been really looking forward to this. I just barely told you a couple of days ago, but I've been planning on this since I knew you guys were coming down here for Thanksgiving, and it just means a lot. So if you're ever in High River, Alberta, Canada, hit up Andrew and Jessica's No Frills. It's the bright yellow grocery store that sits right off there on the, bright yellow. Is it bright yellow? Yeah, bright yellow grocery store. Sits right off there on the main road, and cool place. I've been in there numerous times, and the staff is incredible. They're awesome. A couple of them even recognized us.
Yeah, well, they think you're my hot brother, so.
Oh, well, I tried to be.
Sorry, Mikkel.
I try to be, maybe, do I need to go there by myself?
No, but we're super proud of you, Jace, for all the things that you've accomplished. Like, I know it's been awesome to see your growth throughout the years and all of that. So I'm super proud of you.
That means a lot. Really means a lot. I remember me and you've always been the closest. So I missed you ever since you moved. But
I know
now, Mikkel and I have the means to be able to pop up there pretty much whenever we want, depending on our window of opportunity of warmth. Because you probably won't see me when it's -40.
No.
We could go pick you up and bring you back in -40, but I'm not getting off the plane. You can come on there. I'm not, whatever. But I just, thank you for always being my rock in the family. I mean, I talked to you about anything I've ever gone through. You've been my best friend through it all. And same Andy, we've been super close forever, and just appreciate you guys more than you know, and love you guys to death. So thank you for being on the show.
We love you.
If you like this podcast, please share it. Hit me up on Instagram, DM me, whatever, at Jason Haugen. I would love to engage with you. And yeah, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you later.
Bye.